to the podcast. And I have with me today my dear friend, Susan Stout. She is an architect by trade. We met actually in a different line of work, and no need to necessarily go into that per se today, but we have conversated time and time again over goals, over fun little tips in decorating homes, and how maybe to go about getting some great organization happening. And that's what I love about our friendship. We could talk for hours, and we have.
Yeah.
And we have. So Susan, I'm going to let you share what you do, how you got started, and what you love about it.
Okay, well, hello and thank you. This is going to be so much fun. So, as Amber said, my name is Susan Stout. I am a licensed architect. I live in Olive Branch, Mississippi. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, but today we're here to talk about my field. So, I graduated from college with a Bachelor of Architecture in 1998. A Bachelor of Architecture is a 5-year program, so I was 23 years old, lest anyone wonder. And so I've been out of school now for 22 years. I've been a licensed architect for about 12 years. And I got into the field, it's kind of a funny story. When I was a kid, we had a family business that would require us to travel a little bit just to, around to the neighboring states. And I'm from Arkansas, so we would go to Louisiana, Missouri, Texas, you name it. And the funny thing was, I didn't want to go deal with, stuffy old business stuff. So I got the luxury of being kind of shuttled around town to look at whatever town we were going into. And I truly attribute that to my desire to grow up and be an architect, because I liked going to different places and seeing, different styles of homes, not so much different commercial buildings back then, but just going to the new neighborhoods and seeing something that I didn't have the opportunity to see every day at home. That's what drew me to it.
Wonderful.
Yes.
There's no comparison here, but I love what you do and your passion for it, because when I was in high school, I took several drafting classes. So that's why Susan and I get along, and I can understand some of her lingo, because I took those classes and it really fascinated me. Now, I would have to say I'm more on the residential side than the commercial side. But I love the fact that you have taken your career and really put it to good use. I mean, you are an entrepreneur. And do you love it? Do you love that responsibility?
I do, and that's actually a great question, because I would like to tell you how I became an entrepreneur, because for the first 10 years of my career, actually, speaking of high school, let's go back to high school if you don't mind. If I have one regret with my entire education and career, it's if I had known then what I know now, I would have taken every drawing class I could get my hands on. I mean, you don't have to be a Picasso quality sketcher to be in my field. Absolutely not. But I was actually taking a drawing class in high school, and I wish I had taken about 20, as I said. And my teacher recommended that I go to this, it was like a VOTEC in my town, actually not far from my house at all. And, because she knew I wanted to be an architect. And to be quite honest, I kind of turned my nose up at it. Because I was like, they teach like, I don't know,
small engine
auto body
repair,
mechanics and cosmetology and, those types of things there. And, I was going to be an architect, Well, isn't that silly? Anyway, I'm keeping it real. But I went and I took computer-aided drafting. And I'm going to tell you something. That was the smartest thing I could have possibly done for myself in, fall of 1992. And I'll tell you why. Because when I got to college, I can't say that I was the only one in my class that already knew how to do CAD, but I may have been. And so what that opened the door for me for a lot of summer jobs, and I even had a job on campus doing that. Whereas, at this time, nowadays CAD is very commonplace, but at this time we were still in a hand drafting world. So it kind of gave me a leg up, and just forever grateful. And, and my drafting teacher made such a lifelong impact on me. I mean, I can't thank him enough. So
well, and isn't
that's where it started.
And isn't it interesting? I think in most fields you can say learning how to hand manipulate something and now that we have all the technology, it's so much. I mean, where the walls go, the inches and the whatnot. But I feel like, just again, I am not comparing apples to apples here, but my drafting class, it was all hand drawn. And when we move all the time, I can say that outlet over there is not quite right. It's not where I need that. Okay, so y'all, I love following Susan on social media. She has some of the best photos that she puts up, and it allows me to dream. Because we move all the time, I love seeing new houses in different areas of the country, and thank you for always throwing those buildings out there. It keeps me dreaming. But since Susan decided to go more commercial, I want to hear about that.
Sure.
We all live in a house.
You absolutely do.
Well, okay, most of us live in a house, I guess.
Yeah, some sort of house.
That's right. But let's talk about what you do right now and how, and then we'll kind of tie it back into what everybody lives in.
Sure, absolutely. So I got out of college, and again, because of my CAD skills, because it's funny you mentioned that, I got to college and had to learn how to hand draw, and wasn't really that good at it, to be quite honest with you. I mean, drafting with the triangle and the board and all that. But anyway,
straight edge. Yes. Coffee spills are the devil.
Yeah. So while I was in college, I had the amazing opportunity to work summers and Christmas breaks and whatnot at a firm in my hometown in Little Rock. That, again, just when you're young, you take for granted the opportunities that are given to you and the people that are put in your life. I mentioned my drafting teacher. I mean, I'm telling you, I would not be where I am today without him. And as I was getting to, I worked at a firm, Christmases, summers, all of that just honestly absolutely shaped me into the architect that I am today. In fact, I called one of those guys within the last year, and I literally told him, "You taught me everything I know." And that is, like, it gives me chills, but it's so true. So I had the amazing opportunity to, work as a student. And so I got out of college and went back to Little Rock and worked in firms for 10 years doing basically 100% commercial work. Because and again, this is, I can only speak to my experience. By and large, firms mainly handle commercial work. And of course, at 23 years old, I wasn't going to go out and start my own firm. That may be great for somebody, but I didn't have the guts to try to do that. And I don't think I even knew that was an option back then. So I went to work for others and got incredible experience. I mean, I have worked on college dormitories, churches, oh my goodness, military buildings, Mrs. Card. You name it. And that's a very short list, I know, but I have worked on just about every kind of commercial building. But through that experience, though, I realized over time that I actually had a bit of a love for historic preservation. I know there's something that's not something you're expecting.
But I love it because I lived in Charleston, so I too love hearing about period works. And if you can't preserve something from our past, I say do it, but do it correctly.
Absolutely. Yes, do it correctly. So it was towards the end of one of my experiences at a particular firm where I thought, gosh, I actually really like this. So I switched firms. So now we're going to talk about the last place I worked other than for myself. And there I got to do, this was kind of an interesting twist. I went there wanting to do all historical work, and the building that I worked on nearly the entire time I was there, get this, it was a reasonable facsimile of a historic building that burned. So new construction, but it had to be done to look identical to a historic structure. And so the challenge was to maintain that historical look while meeting, current building standards, current building codes, fire codes, you name it. So it was at that point in time, I had gotten married and, I knew I wanted to start a family. So I had, 10 years, which isn't all the experience in the world, but I had 10 really good years of experience. And that's when I thought, I want to do this on my own. I want to be my own boss. My goal was to work out of my home. I know we're going to cover that, but I wanted to get out and do it on my own because I wanted to have a family, and I had a lofty goal to try to be as present a mother as possible. And if you had to wrap me up in a nutshell, that's it.
And isn't that interesting? I'm going to interject right here, actually.
Sure.
I think most women have that desire to use the career or the passion to give themselves to the world. That's just most women's, that's just a good characteristic of a female, wanting to give back to the world something, but yet you want to raise children and
Absolutely.
be at home. And that's where most of us kind of get stuck for a little while,
Well, and it's a challenge. It's an absolute challenge to try to do both. So yeah, at some points, like myself, after my son was born, I put architecture on the back burner for almost 5 years because I told myself, because I know me obviously, and I'm a go-getter, as you know, and I literally had a conversation with myself and said, you can either be the caliber of mother you want to be, or you can be the caliber of architect you want to be, but you're not going to be able to do them both, sister. And I chose my son for, like I said, about 5 years. That's my story.
But now, so you've come from 10 years. You're newly married. You're working on family, and we're 5 years into having children. And
yes.
Now it's time. Susan says, "Okay, we got to get back to it." What did that look like? How did you get the wheels going again?
Well, I feel like I kind of got lucky, to be honest with you. So when I moved to Mississippi, where I now reside, from Arkansas, I put out feelers. I wanted to meet everybody because I was still going strong. This was pre-child, right? And so I met a local architect who was getting towards the end of his career. And before my son came, I worked quite a lot with that gentleman. He would, give me his overflow work that he couldn't quite get to and whatnot. And so, it was just good old networking, word of mouth. So I knew him. And so many times over the years, I would get calls, even while I was a stay-at-home mom, saying, I talked to him and he recommended you. And, and at that time I would have to say, well, unfortunately, I'm not working right now, but, please think of me in the future. Well, so 5 years moves forward. And my son had started kindergarten, and I knew that at some point I was likely going to go back to work because I missed it, certainly, but I wouldn't trade that time with my child for $10 billion. You just don't get that time back, right? So how it happened, quite honestly, was I got a phone call about a project, and I thought, this is it. I can't pass this up. And again, that same gentleman recommended me, and I knew exactly where this particular building was going to go. And I knew for me, it was going to be important. And for the city, it was going to be important. And I thought, this is it. I've got to go talk to these guys. And honestly, it was that one phone call that started it all back up, and I have not stopped since.
It's incredible what word of mouth,
yes.
Positive attitude, there's just a few things that as we think through people on, let's just use Angie's List because that's what came to mind. You go, wait, I want a service provider who serves, who does what they say when they're going to do it. And that's, I think, from what we've talked about over the years, that's exactly what people think of when they think of Susan Stout. They think,
thank you.
You're welcome. It's very true. You get it done. You get it done with a smile on your face, at least in front of them.
Yeah.
And
Keyword.
on time. And on time. Oh no, we're all behind the scenes doesn't count.
No.
That never counts. So you were working out of your actual home.
I was. I have actually technically worked out of 1, 2, 3. I've worked out of 5 homes since I got married and went out on my own. And I will say each time I had, my own space, my own room, whether it was a room that was clearly delineated as an office or just out of a bedroom that I've turned into an office. I have worked out of 5 different homes prior to this May, actually.
So before we talk about this May, are there in these 5 houses, I know right now I'm sitting in the dining room. I've tried several different rooms out in the house because this house has got enough space to where I could do that. And this felt the most comfortable to me. So is there a process when you're looking for your work from home? Because that's where we all are right now for the most part.
We certainly are. We certainly are.
So are there some key things you look for in those rooms?
Well, to be quite honest, it's okay, what's available? That's number one.
Number one.
Because not everyone is going to have an empty bedroom, for
Right.
example. And fortunately, because I have one child, we've always had at least one extra bedroom, thankfully. And our first home actually had an actual office because the previous owners did it. And another home had like a big bonus room that I turned into my office. But I would say, and again, this is someone who's been working from home long before COVID hit us all. The absolute best case scenario is if you can get in a room with a door and have your own privacy, that would be ideal. But not everyone can do that. So I would say, just putting myself into other shoes, at least get your own designated desk. I mean, lots of people are working on dining room tables now and coffee tables. And I mean, I know architects have had to go home and they've got stuff spread out all over creation. And I think at least designate a workspace. I mean, jam a desk into your guest room or the basement, do something to have your own delineated space, even if it doesn't have a door.
And I was going to say, I love the door part because sitting right here, just because of the need for lighting, this house is pretty dark. So I work with what I have, but I'm in a big open area. So that means every time I get done with a project I'm working on, I feel the need to, as I should, though I'm not the most organized person in the world, I feel the need to clean it all up and move it back to where it goes. And then I have to start the process over again. So I love the idea of your own desk, which I have upstairs, but lighting for this purpose is better down here. And not having to constantly move your things, which then means you could potentially lose a piece if it's on paper.
Absolutely.
Or if you have a daughter who steals all of your pens and highlighters because she's going to play teacher. All my things go. Okay, so May happens of this year, and this was a big turning moment for you.
This is a big turning moment. So again, since 2008, I've worked for myself and I've worked, from my home. And I never had any intention of not working literally right in my home. Because think about it, in 2008, I wanted to start a family. I'm envisioning a baby. I didn't want to be away from the baby. You get the picture. And then he's tiny, can't be left alone, obviously, all the way up even until, I don't know, like 4th grade, let's say. You don't leave a 10-year-old all by themselves, not for more than a minute at least.
Right.
So I never could envision like physically being able to be away. But then, the old preteen years started, and as they do, and, my son doesn't need me to be hawking over him 24 hours a day anymore. Well, I am very fortunate in that when we bought our current home, which we intend, asterisk, to be our forever home, it had what we call this kind of like dinky little storage building to the side of it. I mean, it wasn't like a storage building that you purchase at Home Depot or somewhere. It was an actual little building, but, not really very nice. I'm told by an elderly neighbor, that one of the previous owners had this little building as their taxidermy hobby shop. So not nice at all, right? And we just basically like stored camping stuff out here. I had the treadmill out here for a while. And I just got the itch to not work physically inside my home. Because those of you who do it, the dishes are always calling your name. The laundry is always calling your name. And I used to really pride myself in being able to do it all, keep all the wheels spinning. I had the iRobot running while I'm working. You get it. But honestly, about just over a year ago, I thought, man, I'm feeling the itch to get out of the house. And I said to my husband, I said, I bet you we could renovate that little building for less than 1 year's rent of me working somewhere else. And always the supporter, he said, oh, I bet we could too. You want to do it? Let's do it. And I was like, let me think on this, you know.
Ooh.
I know, right? So that took from about June of 2019 until winter 2019. And finally, January 2020, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to do it. So I got, drew the plans, because I wanted to change quite a lot about this space, which I'm sitting in now. Got myself a contractor and we hit the road going. We hit the road. He started working in January and I moved in the Saturday before Mother's Day of this year.
What a great Mother's Day gift.
I know. By this mother. Because I call this my paycheck by paycheck office. So once I got paid on something, then we put down tile. When I got another paycheck, we did sheetrock. Like, you get it. And that's just how I am. I wasn't going to go into debt for this, but I really wanted it to happen.
What a great way to set a goal too. If you want to see something happen, and I am notoriously like that, I don't want to take away family money.
Absolutely.
Family money for something that I'm going to get the most benefit out of. I want it to be fun if we spend the money. But setting those small goals, what a great way to get your tile. And you can say, oh, thank you, Dr. Smith, for my tile.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so if you don't mind diving into this topic,
Sure.
just for a brief moment, you talked about being a mom, first and foremost, working a career that you're very passionate about, kind of restarting that when it was time. But let's talk for just a minute, if you don't mind, about your running. How you I know that
I wasn't expecting that, but this is great.
But I think it's important to remind people that it's not necessarily, I am not a runner. If a large bear is chasing me, I will run.
Sure.
But I am not a runner. But that was kind of your outlet, your breathing space. So do you want to give any little tips on how that became your breathing space, or what you look at it as?
I like this topic because this falls under the category of lies I have told myself in the past.
Ooh, okay. Hashtag lies I told myself. I like it.
So I started running more or less right before I met my husband. And so at that time, I, quote unquote, just had a career. I was in my 20s. All I did was work, basically. Well, then I met my husband and I got married. And at that point, I was running. And so I worked full time and I was running. So those are two major categories, right? Worked and I was running. Then my son came along, and as I said, I started to, and when he first came along, again, I had grand plans. I was going to do it all. I was going to work 40 plus hours a week. I was still going to keep training for marathons. I was going to be an amazing, excellent full-time mom. I mean,
overachiever.
Yeah, I was going to do it all. And boy, did I quickly learn that was not going to be easy without, basically a full-time babysitter so I could get all this stuff done. And then I'm not being the mom I wanted to be. So the lie I told myself was I can only handle two big things in my life at this time. And so because I had, chosen to put architecture on the back burner, I was like, okay, well, I will be an awesome full-time mom and I will still be a runner. So that's what I did when my son was young. I mean, in those 5 years, I probably ran at least 10 marathons, I would say. So I was mom and I was a runner.
But where were the bears? Were they chasing you?
There were no bears.
Oh, okay.
So then once I started back working, and again, my child was safely at kindergarten each day, I started working based on that one phone call, and I was running a little, but I felt like, I still can only really do two things at a time. My child was kind of, sort of, certainly don't want to say off my plate, but he was at school. So I had that time back, but I was also working. And so trying to find a time to run, it's a lot to juggle, right? It's a lot to juggle. And so now I'm working more than ever, and obviously still want to be the mom that takes to school, picks up from school, helps with the homework, makes a home cooked meal every night. I mean, that's just me. So it is harder to find time to run. So I've had to do what nobody wants to do, which is if I really want to make running a priority in my life, I have to get up really early, which, it stinks, but if you love something, you're willing to do it, right? And it's such an outlet for me because, I mean, and I've been, up, down, and all around in terms of fitness and activity level. But it's so important to me because it lets me start my day and approach my day filled with phone calls and meetings and emails and you name it, just honestly in a better headspace. Because,
Right.
those endorphins, those serotonins, they are pivotal.
I agree. I do better. Now, new house, I've not been getting up at the 5 o'clock like I used to when Christopher had to go in super early in the morning. But I find that if I can work out between 8:30 and 9, or kids get on the bus and then I'm out there working out. And of course, I do better in a group setting. I
Mhm.
like that back and forth and, constant go. But we don't have that right now. So I go walk. I
Yeah.
can walk all day and I can walk really fast, but I don't run. It hurts. It hurts my body. But I do come back and lift weights. And that's when I find that's my time to let my brain rest. And then I'm reinvigorated to go to the
Yes.
next step. So
Yes.
thank you.
So,
I'm,
well,
and
and I say I no longer lie to myself. Now I know I can do it all. It's just going to take some big sacrifice and major planning.
well, and is it, I mean, I think most of us need to hear that. You can't do it all. You can do it all, but you can't be your best self if you do it all. And that's a very important tip right there, I think. If you are committed to continuing with a career and being fully engulfed in family life, and you still have to find time for yourself, and that's
Yes, you have to do something
self
for yourself. Your children,
self-care.
your children and your role as a wife and mother cannot, for me, that cannot be all I have. That, for me personally, that cannot be all I
So do not ever begrudge yourself that hot bubble bath
am. Mm-mm,
at the end of a long day, or
never.
a good hearty stretch by yourself before you go to bed. Like, those things are needed so
Yeah.
you can compartmentalize and get ready for the next step. Okay.
Yes.
So speaking of compartmentalizing, I think Susan and I met over her organization in her closet. That's when Amber came into Susan's life. She was renovating her closet, and I was looking at all these different things going in, going, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen that before, and I need that." So tell us a little bit, if we were renovating a room or an office space, what would be some of your go-tos? Like, you need this if you're splurging. What would those be?
Well, if you were trying to create a home office and you could at all afford to splurge, I would say don't just get a desk, but get a desk custom to your needs. So what I did here in my office was, because I have a long wall with windows right out into some woods right in front of me, I have a desk that runs the entire 15 feet 4 inches wide. Now, I certainly don't use all 15.4, but you know what? I spread out all of my papers all over it. So I can keep everything out. And so that was a big splurge for me. Granite countertops and custom cabinetry was a huge splurge for me. And in a room, in a typical bedroom or home office, it's not even going to be that much. And you can easily go to countertop places and get remnants for next to nothing if you want to have a really nice, beautiful look to your home workspace.
Those are great tips, because yes, I've never lived somewhere. 2 years is about max. And the one time we did tackle our kitchen, we went to an actual cabinet maker, which I'd never been to before. I mean, I felt like I was an adult at that point.
Yeah.
We walked into the cabinet maker and said, "Here's our space." They're, again, working with capable service providers is key, because they
Yes.
came out and measured, and then they were able to walk us through the next step. And if you go to somewhere like Lowe's or Home Depot, you don't have, I'm sure there are very capable people working there, but they are so stretched that they can't enjoy that moment of helping you. They've got 12 other people waiting to be served.
Agreed.
As well.
Agreed.
So yes, it might be a splurge, but in the end, you're going to get what your space needs by a competent eye and love it even more.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a closet. What we did was, demoed the inside of the closet. We did that ourselves. And because of who I am, I did a drawing of that space, and my husband went over it 9 ways to Sunday as to the best way to maximize the space in there with, different numbers of hanging rods. And we put in simple, but, beautiful IKEA chests of drawers in there. So we don't have to have any furniture even in our bedroom, which, who doesn't want a bigger, more luxurious feeling bedroom, but it for a, not a giant closet, but also not a small closet, we have really maximized our space. So yes, start with someone who does what you need, not someone that does a little bit of everything, but someone that has been doing what the task that you're trying to accomplish for a long time.
Okay, so what would be your, since we're throwing out tips, if you're looking for a designer or architect, depending on what your needs are, what would be, that might be scary to somebody going in, they've never
Absolutely.
done a renovation. So what are things the client needs to have, and what are you looking for in your potential architect?
Well, I firmly believe in reputation and word of mouth. So start asking around, and because sure enough, you're going to have a friend that worked with so-and-so and they either had a great experience or not so great an experience. Because especially as a homeowner, because we're taking commercial out of the equation for a moment. As a homeowner, it's a very personal experience. It's your personal space, and you've got to gel well with the person you hire. It's a gut feel. And as an architect, I get a gut feel from who I'm going to be working with, just instantly. Like I joke, sometimes I wish I could just say, okay, I'll give you $100, never to call me back, because you can tell. So, feel them out, speak with someone on the phone and just get a feeling, because you're going to need someone who is I consider it my job as an architect, not to push my personal agenda and you need to do this, this, and this. My job is to take their vision and bring it to life, to get the ideas from their head into my head and on paper, and to make them, the ideal response is to make them feel like that's exactly what I had in my mind, but I didn't know how to put it on paper. If you've done that, then you as a professional have done a great job.
And I promise that person is going to be slammed just like Susan is, because
I was gonna say, that's me. I'm slammed.
when you find that one person, notoriously through the cities we've lived in and homes we've lived in, there are some service providers. I will tell everybody in the community as soon as I'm done with them. As soon as that moving truck is packed, I will tell people my secrets, the wonderful service providers. And that's real. That's networking at its very core, I think.
Absolutely. You've just got, you end up making a personal connection. I say all of my clients end up being friends, except for the ones where it goes horribly wrong and I wish I had paid them $100 to never call me back. There's a few of them, but generally not, because you provide a service. I always say, I work for you. I will do whatever it takes to make your project happen, and I think nowadays you've got to be available. That is the sign of a good professional. Even if someone calls me and I'm slammed and can't get to them, you have to take the call. You have to return the voicemail. You have to return, the text or whatever. And a lot of people nowadays, not just in my industry, but, if they don't want to talk to you, they just don't want to talk to you. And that's not professional. That is not how I came up in the ranks. And I don't think that's how anyone should treat potential clients.
And please note that if they're not calling you back and you don't have that fuzzy feeling as a client, don't use them.
Absolutely not.
There are other people are willing to travel. If you're in a smaller city, and you need to branch out to maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, most people are willing to make that commute if it's a good fit, I feel like.
Absolutely. I mean, and as someone who mostly does commercial, I do a bit of residential here and there, but even all of the commercial jobs aren't huge.
I've already got you a list for our forever home, so don't worry. We've already talked about it. You'll be drawing that, and you like me, so it'll be fine.
I do. Well, and the thing I think that sets me apart is if I had a motto, it would be no project too small. So this is the thing, again, I'm a sole practitioner. So if someone just needs, I don't know, $500 worth of work or something, I'm still going to do it. And yes, that's small potatoes compared to some big brand new commercial building. But the thing I always say is small potatoes eventually add up to a full bag. I answer the phone. I go to Friday of this week. Now, this is interesting. Friday of this week, I'm going to go and meet with a lady who wants to finish out, and so this is residential. She wants to finish out her unfinished attic space. And so I think this is a sign of the times. People are working from home now. So I've got that lady that wants to finish out an attic. Last week, I met with a gentleman who wants to finish out an attic. And also last week, I met with a lady who wants to finish out a basement because she's working from home. So again, I'm not going to turn down these small things. I mean, I can fit it in. I can always find a way. But sometimes the bigger firms, they don't even want to come out unless it's, a 5-figure job, so to speak, for their commission. And I just try to find a way to fit it in because, they wouldn't have called me if they didn't need my assistance. And again, I want to have a good relationship and I want them to refer me to someone. They might only need an attic renovation right now, but they might build a commercial building 2 years from now. You never know.
And you never know who they're going to send to you. So that's always the best policy. Okay. So one of the people that you have seen in the past week, lead us through, and I guess that's kind of where we'll leave this. A pressing question might be, okay, you come out, you measure, we're good, this is going to happen. What is that process of getting the project completed? Just kind of as a general step by step.
Well, typically one of two things happens, and I'm going to tell you how it literally happened this past week with the basement lady. So I was called by a contractor, and quite often contractors are more than capable of going in, meeting with someone, and they say, I want to finish out this space, and boom, they can do it. But in this particular case, this woman needed something that the contractor felt was just a bit out of their wheelhouse. They needed some actual drawing. So they called me because someone I don't know recommended me, which is typically how it happens, which always feels really good. So in this case, I'm at the homeowner's residence with the contractor and a plumber and an HVAC guy. I mean, the team was all there. And so, I learned from the homeowner what she would like, and I took measurements, took pictures, came up with a floor plan that night, showed it to the contractor, and then at this point the contractor, because she was the lead on this, she met with the homeowner, and we've made a couple of tweaks, and that was that. But plan B is someone calls me, they don't have a contract, because that's one of the first things I always ask is, do you have a contractor in mind? Because if they do, I want to coordinate with that person. Because, if you can solve problems on the front end, that saves time and money. So person B might call me and say, I want to, finish out my attic space. And I'll say, do you have a contractor in mind? No, but I thought you could recommend one. Absolutely. I've got a lot I can recommend. So then I go over, meet with the person, see how big the space is, hear what all they want in the space. And a lot of the times they say, I want a bathroom over here, a dormer over here. I mean, quite often they know what they want. And if they don't, I can make suggestions. And then again, I take pictures, do measurements, draw a floor plan, send it back to them. There might be a little back and forth. That's the nature of it. We get settled on a plan, and then I bring in a contractor, and then not to get too far into the weeds, but then contractor's going to bring in their subs. They're going to bring in their electrician, their HVAC guy, maybe their flooring guy. I mean, you name it. Their framer, their sheetrock team, and typically, once everyone is on the same page, then I'm out of the picture for a small residential job. I've done what I needed to do. I've given the drawings, I've found the contractor for them, they've assembled the team, they've worked out pricing, so I hand the drawing and the invoice to the homeowner, I get a check, I'm out. But again, because my clients, typically we become friends, I'm not really out because I hound them to send me progress pictures, and they say, oh, come look at it, and we get to be friends. And I just think that's well, that's just me. And that's just my personality. I want to stay in contact. I want to see my work come to life. I consider being an architect, and I don't know if I'll get daggers thrown at me for this, but on a bigger job, especially, I think this has got to be what it's like kind of to be a surrogate mother.
Okay.
So I take someone else's dream, the baby, if you will, and I like, it's my baby too, though. I've put blood, sweat, and tears and hours and hours and hours and hours into making their vision come to life. And, once we get those final set of drawings, I hand them off, the baby is birthed, and then they get to take it and enjoy it and love it forever. And I'm just like, it was my baby too, which is why I want to stay in contact. I want to drive by and see construction. I want to get their feedback. Is there anything about this that you would have changed, So it's like, it's my baby too. And I love it when they invite me to the grand opening. That's like the first birthday party.
I love that. I think that right there sums up most people's wants for how this career, this passion that they feel so strongly about, that's what they want it to look like. So I hope that us conversating back and forth about something that we use every day, we're in structures all day long, but to you, this is the baby. This is, look at the light. You are an artist, truly. I mean, look at the way the light comes in right here. Or if you are able to go from the beginning, no, we need to face it this way. You're going to get this light. And
exactly.
It is, a lot of people think, okay, square building, rectangular building, on the ground, driveway, and we live here. But it's so much more. I mean,
yes,
life memories are made there.
For a family recently, and once they were about ready to start construction, they ended up like mirroring the building because of they wanted the majority of their view to be out to their beautiful lake. I mean, you have to think about stuff like that.
And that's where having an architect can help you with that vision. So now that we're all spending more time at home, we need to appreciate the space that we're in, utilize it, make it your own, put that stamp on there, and have a professional, if that's in the budget, help you do that.
And, and sometimes with me, people will just send, like just this week, a friend sent me a picture and said, do you think this wall could be taken down between the living room and the kitchen, just on a real estate listing? And I said, well, my gut says yes. Don't be mad at my gut if it's a love bearing wall, but it doesn't look like one. Just simple things like that you can do for, not that much money, just to tweak your space and make it your own. And in that case, I didn't have to go out and look at it. I just gave her my opinion and went on. I'm happy to do that. I love to help people in that way.
Well, with that being said, I'm going to end the notes, give some ways for you to contact Susan, and her Facebook page, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And we would love for you to continue the conversation with Susan. Maybe you are in that area and call her up. Let her.
Well, and the beauty is that I don't necessarily have to be in your area. I mean, nowadays with, easily photos and a quick sketch and some easy dimensions. I mean, I don't even have to be in your area necessarily to be able to help you.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's super exciting news. See, I've got you lined up for this dream home. You're going to be getting those plans soon. All right. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. This has been helpful for the house. It's been helpful for a female entrepreneur really wanting to get going. You have given so much light and positivity. Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Well, thank you. This has been an absolute joy. And I can't thank you enough for this opportunity.
You're welcome. All right. We'll be talking soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.